your ear. Imagine that
That's
ear laying on the
it must have
shoulder.
come off completely.
How did it
Gross.
happen?
Yes, during one of the
Uh,
scenes.
Just fight, just in the fight
yeah,
scene.
he bit him.
Yeah. Mike Tyson.
Like Dyson wasn't
That was the part that they were like, we can't put you biting somebody, John Wick. You're too cool. And he was like, all right,
That's
well, I
pretty
got carried
cool. Like
away.
walk away. I mean, if you're gonna get a scar, that's a badass story to tell. I don't think someone's gonna
Hell
be
yeah.
not gonna be.
And yet there's so much great world building in John Wick, but Atomic Blonde, I don't need to see a sequel to that.
I would.
There's a sequel in the
They're
works.
doing it. Okay.
I thought it was just pretty enough to enjoy it as I mean, it's hard to compete with John Wick, really. But as a standalone by itself, I felt like she was a believable character. The plot didn't really help the movie, but I felt like if it was something different with her and that way that the movie looked, I felt like it was really pretty and stylized, almost like a
Cinematography
comic
was
book.
great. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
Basically,
it was
just want a different movie with the same cinematographer.
Yeah, there you go.
and Charlize Theron kicking people in the face.
I mean, just
I mean,
I think you just
it
need a
was
simpler
enjoyable.
storyline. You know, the storyline was just too complex. There's just way too much stuff going on. In that
I
movie.
never understood where James McAvoy's character's loyalty really was. Like, was he just in it for himself?
Well,
But it was
He was working with the Russians. Wasn't he he was the guy that ultimately betrayed everybody. Remember that scene where they were walking down the alley trying to get the guy who had the list in his head. They were trying to escape, and he just walks up beside him and pop, pop, pop. That was kind of neat. But that's when you knew, like, oh, we kind of all guessed, like, it's got to be him, right? There was nobody else who could have.
Actually him. He wasn't the double agent.
No.
Charlize was.
Right. But I'm saying,
but he happened to be a traitor.
Right. I thought he was supposed to be working for the MI6, but he was actually working for the Russians, right? Or was he just working for himself?
I think he saw an opportunity and took it, and he flipped on the people he was working for because he thought he could get more money.
That's right. That's right.
And that character's role, James McAvoy's David's character's role, was originally had a small part and was just supposed to be a red herring as that double agent. But he actually talked to the director and said that he thought he should have a bigger part in the third
movie, buddy.
In the third act and become more of a bad guy. And I'm like, well, some ballsy, like, hey, I should probably be more in this movie. And he's like, all right, I guess you should.
Because I feel like his character really made it more confusing.
Right.
Probably since it wasn't originally planned that way, maybe that in his mind he thought he could contribute more, but it was a little bit of
they sort of, it felt like it kind of shoehorned him in there at the end. It could have just been a regular bad guy, but why have the twist? I mean, like when he flipped, nobody was like, "Oh no!" It was just like, "Oh yeah, he's a douche." Like, no doubt.
I like the concept though, like the story of her being the double agent the whole time, I think was really, really cool. I think that, you know, if you get a movie like Memento or The Usual Suspects, and they're telling things out of time like that with those flashbacks, just so much more effective. Like the end of Usual Suspects, when you find out that Kevin Spacey has been Kaiser.
Oh wait, I haven't seen it yet.
You really are like sucker punched and watching everything kind of fall together, and they wanted that so badly, but it just didn't quite land. I thought it was like an A for effort.
Yeah. Well, The Usual Suspects, the way you find out, the way his foot starts straightening out, the way you start seeing the stuff on the walls, and you're putting it together at the same time, you're like, whoa.
That movie, yeah, we're realizing it. I don't know anybody that saw that coming. It's like it's Chaz Palminteri, right? He's looking at the wall, he sees the bottom of the cup, and now we're figuring it out at the exact same time. I mean, that was brilliant. One of the best twists ever. Sixth Sense. I figured that one out about halfway through, just by accident.
So special.
I did not see that one coming. Actually, I was in high school, and
I saw before the end of it. I figured it out, and I turned to Leslie, and I'm like, "Oh, I know what it is." And she's like, "Don't say anything." I'm like, "I won't say anything."
My buddy Alex, his wife does costumes, and she noticed right away he hadn't changed clothes in 2 or 3 scenes. He's dead.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit! Spoiler. Sorry. If you haven't seen, you know what? No.
Spoiled like
if you haven't seen Sixth Sense by now, that's on you, buddy.
Yeah,
it's not my fault.
It's been like 25 years at this point.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to.
You know what's kind of interesting too is Atomic Blonde takes place. That Berlin Wall plays a plays a part in that, because it was just before it came down. It was like 8 days or a week before the wall came down. So that was kind of playing in the background too, of all the new stuff, all the stuff going on with that wall coming down, which I thought was kind of interesting because of all the stuff going on in around that time period in what, 89 or whatever that was.
Right,
So
because they were in Russia, but the Germany was in the news.
Yep.
And it was American.
Yeah, and it was weird. It was like you're showing all that stuff, and it was like they're showing like this time period where all this unrest and all this stuff's going on, and I thought it was kind of neat, and that's why they used all the '80s music too, because it was supposed to be in the '80s. So, and he did say he purposely did all that '80s music and wanted all that music in there, and the directors were, the producers were like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to afford all this, because that's a lot of music, and that's not cheap.